Okay. Tell her you can hear now. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for attending this morning's presentation on creating a caring environment in a digital world of learning. I'm very excited to introduce this first of a three-part series on the role of caring in nursing education. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Lynn King. Dr. King has taught nursing education for over 30 years, with the past 9 years in online education. She currently teaches in our RN to BSN and graduate programs. Dr. King recently left a position as the Director of Nursing Education at the University of Maine at Augusta. The curriculum was based on an integral, caring, holistic framework and was endorsed by the American Holistic Nursing Association. Research endeavors include pressure ulcer incidence and prevalence and has investigated nursing faculty-to-faculty incivility. Dr. King is currently enrolled in the Caritas Coaching Education Program provided by the Watson Caring Science Institute. So if I can ask everybody to make sure you mute your computer right now, and if you can share any questions in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So Dr. King.
Great, good morning and welcome everyone, and thank you for coming today. I understand this is the end of the semester, and so it takes commitment to give up time, especially during these busy times of the holiday. I'd like to start, if everybody would please, just kind of go around and introduce yourself, just to let me know your name. I know some of you, and how long your position, if you're teaching or if you're in clinical practice, and how long you've been in your current position. And Jamie, maybe we'll start with you.
Okay, so I'm Jamie Murphy. I am full-time faculty, just changed over from the RN to BSN to the graduate program. I've been teaching nursing education for 10 years with the last 7 at Delhi. So that's me.
I'll go next. Alicia Zupan. I was adjunct for SUNY Delhi, and now for probably about 3 years, I'm full-time faculty for the RN to BSN.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Londa Palmer. I've been teaching at SUNY Delhi for a little over 10 years. I teach in the RN to BSN and I teach in the ADN program.
I'm Tammy Chandler, and I just finished my first year full-time with SUNY Delhi, and then I had 1 semester prior to that teaching in the RN to BSN program, and then as an adjunct, and then also 1 semester teaching clinical for SUNY Delhi as an adjunct.
Hi, my name is Beth Boyd. I am full-time online faculty. Just finished my first semester full-time, was adjunct prior to that, have 10+ years in academia teaching and 20 to 30 years teaching in practice.
I guess I'll go. This is Donna Florkowitz. I am in my 35th year as a staff ICU nurse. I am in my 5th year teaching as an adjunct clinical instructor for SUNY Delhi. And I'm in my 2nd year teaching online for Empire State College as an adjunct.
This is Christina Ludden. How is everybody this morning? Hi, Lynn. I feel like we've met and it's just been a really long time. Yeah. I've been with SUNY Delhi since 2003, and I've been an advisor in the School of Nursing since 2008.
I'll go after here, Christina. My name's Miriam Murray. I've been with the SUNY Delhi School of Nursing for about 5 years. I'm not a nurse. I am a recruitment coordinator for our programs, but my position is all about promoting the mission, vision, philosophy of the School of Nursing. So I thought maybe it would be nice for me to be here and kind of get a better sense of everyone's commitment and attitude towards caring and compassion in an online classroom.
Hi, I'm Nancy Willow. I too am not a nurse. We got the non-nurse crew here. I am one of the academic advisors in the BSN and MSN programs. It's good to see everybody this morning. Oh, and I've been here for eight or so years.
Hi, Terry Brocia. I served as adjunct faculty for 7 years with SUNY, and in 2017 accepted a position at Penn State Hershey as their simulation educator.
This is Laura Meckel, and I just finished my first semester of full-time faculty on campus. And I've been an adjunct for the last few years, but before that working in the health center at SUNY Delhi for, I guess that was about 5 years.
Lynn, I'm Robin Scobie, and I'm a nursing practicum coordinator for the past 4 years for bachelor's and master's students at SUNY Delhi.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Dakotas, and I'm been working full-time for 2 years now in the pre-licensure on-campus program, and I do some clinical rotations as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gerster. I've been working as a clinical adjunct for the last 5 years. I think I started the same time Donna did. I've been through the BSN program, and I have 2 classes left in the MSN program, and I should be teaching med-surg in the fall.
Hi, I'm Marguerite Goulet, and I've been teaching at SUNY Delhi since 2009 as a adjunct for the first 5 years, and then the rest full-time, and I teach in the RN-BSN online program.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Eck. Excuse me. I've been teaching for SUNY for almost 10 years now in the RN-BSN program, and I've been teaching since 1999. Wow, that sounds like a long time.
And I'm Elizabeth Pratt, and I teach in the RN-BSN program as well. And I started in 2009 as an adjunct and then came on full-time in 2013.
I think that's everybody. Okay.
Very good.
Share the PowerPoint now?
Or sure, you can put the first slide up. That would be great. Okay. So I think at this point, everybody's kind of familiar with what our focus is today, that we're going to be looking at. The 3-part series will be really looking at creating a caring environment in the digital world of learning based on Watson's Caring Task Science. And so I thought we would start today. You can move it to the next slide with a centering meditation. And before we start that, I would like to just kind of share a little bit about what the centering means. And centering is really to empty out. And as I thought about today, and I thought about all the activities I've done before I came to this presentation, I like to center before. So centering is something where we empty out, and that allows us to be able to open to give and receive for the next event. So you might do it in the morning. I do it in the morning. You might do it before a meeting. You might do it before you have a challenging conversation coming up. But it really, for me, it's really, really helpful. So I'm going to start, and I would like to invite you all to close your eyes if that's comfortable. Please sit in a comfortable position, generally with your spine straight, feet on the floor, and hands resting on your lap. Gently close your eyes if that feels comfortable. If not, you can just let your eyelids relax and gently gaze downwards. Now shift all of your attention onto your breathing, taking slower, deeper breaths than you have taken so far today. We take a deep breath in through the nose, pause at the top of the breath, then gently exhale through your nose, if that is comfortable. If not, then exhale through your mouth, trying to make the exhalation longer than the inhalation, emptying out all of the air. Continue to breathe this way, feeling your chest expand as you inhale and contract back in as you exhale. As you go inside yourself, find the quiet place that we all have access to. Go there and be still within yourself, even momentarily. Once you are in that place, allow yourself to feel how good it is to be quiet and still. Now tune into your body and notice how that feels. Notice if there is anything your body is trying to tell you. Notice any place of tension or tightness of your body, and give those areas permission to relax, sending love to those areas. Thank your body for taking such good care of you, and let it know that it is okay to let it relax for these few minutes. You may notice that your mind wanders off, and that's natural. Just notice it and bring your attention back to your body in the quiet space, and use your breath in and out as your anchor. Try to bring to mind one thing that has happened today that made you smile or feel appreciative. Let that feeling fill you up for a moment. Allow yourself to smile if that feels natural. Continue breathing, sitting in this feeling of joy and peace. Let's take a few more deep breaths together, inhaling through the nose and exhale. Inhale a deeper breath and exhale fully. And one more inhale and exhale. Thank yourself for taking these few minutes to center and for being gentle and kind and loving to yourself. When you are ready, you can gently open your eyes and return back to this space. Thank you. You want to put up the next slide, please, Jamie? So I'd like if everybody would be willing to participate in the chat, if you would please just place a brief statement Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. First, I wanted to go with these outcomes. I apologize for that. There are 4 outcomes for the whole this whole program. The 3 sessions. And the way I've broken it down today, we're going to be talking and really focusing on Dr. Watson's caring concepts. And so part of the role of an educator or a nurse is really looking at our own caring philosophy and how does that align with our role, whether it be a clinical educator, a classroom educator, an administrator, an advisor. And I did want to say that interchangeably, I'll be using the word sometimes nursing because Dr. Watson's work is focused on nursing. However, as humans, and we wear many hats in different roles, all of these words will be used interchangeably. So whatever your role is, all the concepts we talk about today are applicable. And then the second part of the other outcome today, I'm hopeful that by the end of our session, really we'll be looking and thinking about why do we really need to embrace self-care daily activities. And I'm going to talk a lot about that towards the end. So hopefully throughout this presentation, more will be revealed. Now the next slide. So I wanted to know if you would be willing to please place in the chat box just a cut, and it doesn't have to be full sentences, really what brought you here today and what was the interest for you for caring work? When you saw the word caring in the title, what did that trigger for you? What was your stimulus for wanting to come to this presentation today? We'll just give you a couple of minutes if you would be willing to put that in the chat box. Okay, people can keep, if you'd like to keep adding some responses, but just kind of looking, what I'm seeing as themes are people, some participants want to learn more about caring for self and kind of thinking about why do I care for others, but maybe not so great at doing that for myself. And that we'll be talking about today. Also about helping to create a more engaging learning environment, especially online. And also thinking about caring for students in the same way we might care for patients if we're nurses. So I kind of wanted to share with all of you what brought me to this deep dive in caring science. And so I'm going to make it really brief because I want to spend time on other things. But I had been in a position, I think Jamie had shared that for like 8 years, in an administrative position. And it was very stressful, a lot of hours. I worked more than 80 hours in many weeks. And I felt, ooh, this is not really, really good for me. It's physically, mentally, spiritually taxing. And it culminated in a toxic workplace. And as Jamie shared, I have done I've done 2 or 3 research programs on incivility in nursing education. So it didn't resonate well for me to be in a toxic workplace where there was incivility and just overworked, overstressed, burned out people. So I left that workplace. So, and I do want to disclose that is not SUNY Delhi, it's another institution. So I left that toxic workplace, and it was kind of a huge, I had worked in that institution for over 30 years. So it was pretty much, I had a crisis in my professional identity at the time. And I thought, ooh, I need to do something different. So while I was trying to figure out what that different was, I did what I call a deep dive in self-care. And just started my healing process. That's how I would say it. Before I knew the language, before I had understood Dr. Watson's work in a higher level, I just did a deep dive in healing. I took conscious healing courses from trauma. I started meditating. I did all these things, and it really helped to bring me to a different place. I took, and I'll share some of these sites later, a mindful practice, caring science course. Anything that kind of came in my mailbox that looked like had mindful in it and caring for self, I thought, okay, I'm going to get into that. During that time, which was very interesting, and over this period of the year, it started a year ago. So I left my position in September of 2019. So that's when I kind of started this deep dive in caring for self. And what I noticed, emails that I was getting from students in my adjunct part-time position were different. And during the spring semester, I thought, oh, they're just different. What the messages are to me, what I'm hearing is really different. So I decided at some point that I was going to enroll in the Caritas coaching program at the Watson Institute, and applied, and it was accepted. It is an application program, and it was deferred because April was COVID, and they decided we would not have it in April. So I started the coaching program in October. But I wanted to share with you, and I asked the student if I might use this verbatim, and she agreed without, because I don't want to condense it, I wanted to share it with you, an email that I received that was absolutely life-changing for me. And it made me understand that I've changed. Okay, so during this transformative experience, I've changed because of the caring processes. So this is from a student in the past year. Good afternoon. I just wanted to send you a thank you email. I really appreciate the understanding and patience you have shown me in this course. I know it's because you understand what nurses are currently going through with COVID-19. However, you really did help me more than you know. If it wasn't for your compassion and understanding, I would have dropped out of the BSN program this semester. I'm working 2 jobs, which is normal in our profession. However, I'm also taking care of my grandmother who is going through chemotherapy. This semester was definitely too much for me, physically exhausting and emotionally vexing. So thank you for understanding when I handed in my assignments late and if they were not the absolute best quality. I really did try my best this course, but honestly, I was all over the place. There were definitely days where I was too exhausted to notice what day or week it was. So thank you for being an amazing instructor. I hope to have more classes with you, and I want you to know that even by just being a kind person, you can really impact someone's life. Wish you all the best and stay safe. That email really impacted me. And so when I met with my mentor for the coaching program, we have a capstone project that we need to do. I shared with her, how moving that was for me. And, how have I changed in this process that students are perceiving a higher level. And I'm not saying I didn't get emails in the past, and they were very nice thank you notes about, thank you for being my faculty, et cetera, et cetera. But nothing as moving as that. That really changed my perception. And this wasn't the only one. There were several others. And I thought, whoa, things are changing. So is there a way I can think about how can I present this information and share that with other faculty? Because I do think it makes a difference. And I remember when I started teaching online and I took an online program to prepare out in Indiana, faculty would say, oh, it's different online. You can't build a relationship with students. And I thought, of course you can. Of course you can, but it may be different. And how do we do that? And we'll get into that more in the second session. But I think today we will, we're going to begin thinking about how we ourselves will perhaps change. Okay, could you please put up the next slide, Jamie? Thank you. This slide is really on the overview foundations of caring science. And again, I don't want to get into too much what I call academic. However, I think it's important to kind of pull out, and we'll be sending out these PowerPoint slides to everybody, so you don't need to really take a lot of notes. But I want to kind of pull out what I call the essence of some of these, because as I talk today and as we talk about the concepts of how we're going to promote a more caring environment, I think a few of these are really important. And on this slide, really talks about Dr. Jean Watson's work, and that she sees that as the caring consciousness is unitary. We are all connected, interconnected, and we need to care for ourselves first in order to care better for others. And that third bullet point for me was a huge, huge awakening that I was giving way too much. 80 hours a week is way too much in one job. And actually, I think at the time, I was working at 1.3 jobs. And that's just too much. And so I needed to really think about in caring for myself, I need to set boundaries, and I need to think about how can I care for myself well and do a great job in my work life if I'm not taking care of myself. According to Watson, we have to treat ourselves with gentleness, loving kindness, equanimity, and dignity before we can respect and care for others. And the word caritas, some of you may have heard, it does come from Latin origin. And if you'd go to the next slide, there's a definition that she gives. And originally, Dr. Watson used the term carative factors because it does caritas comes from the word to cherish, to appreciate, give special attention. And there's a caring aspect to that. She changed the term over time and it evolved to caritas, which conveys a deeper form of transpersonal caring and love as part of a caring, healing process. And it goes with the 10 caritas processes that guide our practice of caring. And so nurses that are present might be familiar with Dr. Watson. She developed the transpersonal human caring theory back in the 80s. And it's really evolved over the years. In this coaching program, again, we've done a deep dive into this. And if you're interested, I'm going to be presenting today a reference list of the books and handouts that I'm using for today's presentation. But at the end of the 3-part series, there'll be a totally evolving reference list for you. And on the next slide, the major concepts of the 10 caritas processes. As I said, this has evolved from the carative factors. to the Caritas processes. And these I've kind of condensed down, but on the handout that you were sent, the core concepts of Jean Watson's theory of human caring, each one of these is explicated much better, so in much more detail. But a few things I want to say about the Caritas processes. When we embrace this theory of transpersonal caring, we integrate all of these. So at any given time when we are in a relationship with another person, we may integrate or use several of these at one time. For example, when I'm working with a student, I know that I need to practice self-care. I need to, number one is sort of a given. If I'm exhausted, spent, I am not there to be fully present with that student and to really help them if they're struggling or if they're challenging or if they just need support. And at the same time, I need to think about how do I develop number four? How do I develop a helping, trusting, caring relationship? What are the components of that? What does that look like? Again, we'll talk more about that today. Number five is another one that I think I know myself over the years, I've taught many, many years. Sometimes it's really challenging to hear students express negative feelings. We love to hear the positive. Sometimes it's challenging. However, what we know about positive and negative feelings, they're basically the same. We all hold them. And they carry the same energetic response in us, so that if I have positive feelings, I'm happy and all that. If I have negative feelings, I still have an energetic response. However, I need to release that. And unless I can bring it up to the surface, unless I have that opportunity to say it and express it, I'm not able to release that. And we do know that holding and harboring negative feelings can lead to a series of emotional, mental, physical, other things. So each of these Caritas processes are important. They're not linear. So one doesn't need to embrace one and then go to two, three, etc. They're all interconnected and interdependent upon one another. And in our role as a caring faculty member or caring advisor or caring nurse, we will use various Caritas processes at different times. Okay, next slide, please. On that same handout that I just referred to, and it's cited there on the bottom, it's a kind of a compilation of all the major concepts. And I wanted to just kind of highlight a few things here that we'll be talking more today about, and then the ones that we'll be talking more about in the upcoming. When I look at this, we really want to think about how human caring for ourselves is going to impact others in terms of the relationship building, in terms of reflective approaches, caring moments, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We also want to think about multiple ways of knowing. And if you're familiar with Barbara Carper's work, Dr. Watson uses that as kind of a baseline, and then she's added more information for that. And that will be in session 2. We'll be talking about multiple ways of knowing and how to enhance that digital caring environment. And as I said, we'll be weaving all of these concepts throughout all of the 3 presentations. Next slide, please. Part of Dr. Watson's work is based on philosophers. And so we have the ethics of hands, space, and belonging. And she says that when we see our face and when we face ourselves and others, we see our own caring consciousness manifested. So we really hold, and especially nurses, when I think about how we hold our hands, we hold in our hands another person's humanity. as an educator, I see my student label as a human. And we sometimes, I think, forget that when we think about, and I know I've read in the literature, labeling patients, labeling students, not a good idea. And I know I've done it in the past. I'm sure everyone has. Instead of labeling the student, and I've thought about this with language, this is a challenging student. I don't say that anymore. I say, this student is a person that is experiencing some challenges. And when I hear their stories, that's what connects me, I believe, to that level of humanity. And I had a student in this past year who emailed me because they were having some challenges. And when I read the story, I was like taken back and thinking, oh my goodness, how do people survive? She had multiple children, 6 or 7 children. She was working 2 or 3 jobs, going to school. And then her husband left her. And so she had to face a divorce. And I thought, whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot for any human to go through at any given point. So I think it's important when we think about this ethics of faith, belonging, we all belong to the shared humanity. It's really important for us to really listen to our students' story and, with that heart connectedness. I know for myself, I read the story and then I try to do a follow-up with each student when they express that they are feeling challenged, and try to get a phone conversation going with them or a Zoom meeting. Try to have a real heart-to-heart centered communication. And again, we'll talk more about that in session 2. We know that, again, in this kind of humanity, in this connectedness, human connectedness, there is a true heart connection. And if you're familiar with heart math, and that is it's based on an energy field of cardioenergetics and heart-centered living. And they've studied the psychophysiology of stress, emotions, and the interaction between heart and brain. So we know that if we're really wanting to make that heart-to-heart connection, we need to really be thinking about how am I caring for my own heart? How am I caring for my own person in order to really be able to open my heart space and connect at that level with another human being. Okay, next slide, please. Intentionality of authentic presence. Intentionality is really thinking about how I'm going to, I need to center. And intentionality is a little more than just saying, I intend to show up here today. It's really a deeper level, and it's at that place of authentic presence that I'm going to let everything else go right now. I'm going to be totally present with you in this space. We all have busy lives, we all have other things, but being truly authentically present in the now means learning how to presence ourselves. One of the trauma healing courses that I took, the whole 6 months was really focused on presencing, living in the moment. And I know we've all heard that kind of cliche, it's important to live in the moment, but truly doing it and living it and being present is so much easier than trying to orchestrate our entire lives. So Dr. Watson invites us when we're developing relationship with another person, we need to listen to their story and we need to really hold that person in our heart with loving kindness and no judgment. We're not there to try to change the person. We're not there to try to change a situation or outcome. We are there to authentically be present and listen. And it really is an amazing experience when one has that, because you really develop a heart-to-heart, spirit-to-spirit relationship with that person. And that connection keeps us what we have in common, and that is humanity. We are all members of the same world. And that kind of spirit-to-spirit communication is amazing. Also, we need to think about, do we always hold that person's wholeness and dignity and honor them for who they are? Because they are whole, they are complete. And I think as a nurse, especially in my practice, there were times that I did not do that. Today, I understand this at a very different level. And what we hold in our hands, people matter. Everyone matters. And as an educator, as a nurse, as a human, I think these concepts will change the world. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, Jamie.
I did move it, transpersonal relationships. And
Okay, it didn't move on my screen for some reason. The Caritas process number 5, it's on the bottom. So transpersonal relationship means really looking beyond thinking about, I was thinking about the word yesterday, transpersonal relationship. So transpersonal means across. So we're across between these two people during these moments. And I think and I know in my clinical practice, in my nursing education, we talked about, interpersonal relationships. We talked about interprofessional, intraprofessional. Never talked in my nursing education really about transpersonal. And when we talk about the transpersonal relationship, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond, it transcends that we're two separate people, but we're just totally connected in that moment, in that experience. So it's really shifting our consciousness toward a deeper caring process. And when that happens, when we have a caring transpersonal relationship, it changes ourselves, it changes the other person, and we carry that with us. So those kind of changes happen, and we actually carry them with us in our next experience. The number 5, Caritas process, is so important, and you'll hear me say it probably over and over, and that's really allowing for expression of positive and negative feelings and listening authentically without trying to change that person. I think it's so important because I know myself, this is inherent in building trust. If I don't trust that other person, I'm not going to share. I'm not going to be willing to be open and vulnerable. So how we approach that person that we need to have some type of conversation with, and it might be a crucial or critical conversation, is so important. And I think it's how we approach the person and open up and offer this caring consciousness and honor them with so much respect and dignity that that person will be able to open up and share with us because of the trust. Okay, next slide, please. Within caring science, we're asked to repattern ourselves. So repatterning ourselves is not just a task list. It's not just saying, okay, I'm going to change. It's really opening ourselves up for transformation. In surrendering, it's letting go of our ego sense of control to make something happen. And I don't know about all of you, but for me, that's sometimes challenging, letting go, letting go of that need to control. Control how Christmas is going to be, for example. I'm not controlling it. It's going to happen. I have no control that COVID's here. I have no control that my family can't be home. It just will be, and allow that, and living in that presencing, having that capacity to be present and living in the now really helps once one has surrendered that ego sense of control. Not easy, but it is possible. If one is to truly heal oneself, we must learn to forgive. So part of self-care and caring for self is allowing ourselves to forgive. For example, if we're not doing great self-care, if we're feeling a little guilty about not doing things, it's okay. We just have to forgive ourselves and say, gee, I made a commitment, didn't follow through. I'm forgiving myself. And from this moment on, I'm resuming and I'm going to move forward. But we really do need to work on forgiveness of self and others if that's an issue. We need to also pause to be present and give thanks for all of our blessings amidst this felt chaos. We open our heart center with gratitude. I know for myself, I started a gratitude journal months ago, and that's something I have not done every day, every morning. It's part of my morning ritual. And I do write in my gratitude journal every day. And also when I do my walks, I like to do that with gratitude. It's just really important for us to think about. And I've read several studies now on gratitude that it actually changes the neuroplasticity in our brain, so that the more grateful we are of our blessings instead of what we are not being filled with, really helps change us. And the last thing here, so these are practices of human healing to repattern ourselves, is compassionate service. And engaged caring is knowing that our talents, skills, abilities have been used to serve others and have made a difference. So as we repattern, sometimes I think people or members of our society are, I heard the word just the other day, people are selfish. And so I think that when we think about compassionate service, what we do is important, and we have made a difference in somebody else's life. And that's also connects to remembering purpose. If we're confused, as I shared with you, I had a crisis in my professional identity a year ago, trying to figure out what is my purpose now. I'm not a full-time administrator. I'm not a full-time educator. What is my purpose? And so I just let it go. And I let it be, gave up control, and said, I'm going to figure it out as I go along. And today is the only day I have to think about right now, this moment. Next slide, please. So getting at the caring moment. So Dr. Watson has kind of coined this term, built on her caring science and her transpersonal caring. Caring moments happen between two people. And they happen when the nurse, and I like to use the word educator here, is mindful, intentional, present, and chooses how to be in that moment. And as I said earlier, I really went before a meeting, before I am going to meet with a student, perhaps, we're going to have a discussion. I try to do a little short intention, set an intention and center before I actually meet with them, to try to empty myself out of whatever chaos has been in my life and allow for my heart space to be open, to have that, what we call spirit to spirit connection. And then I'm really truly being authentically present. I am listening to that person and hearing everything that they're saying. I don't try to change them. I don't try to change the outcome. I perhaps might reflect back and give them some information, what I heard, and try to get them to really come up with a solution. And that's really what this transpersonal caring is about. And it happens in a given now. So it happens from moment to moment. and we honor that whole person. So the body, mind, spirit, emotions of that person is honored. And when we have a caring moment, both individuals, that moment becomes part of us and we are changed forever. So any caring moments that you've had, whether it be with patients, family, educators, become part of who you are. And I do think sometimes in our society, we are challenged, especially with communication, to really sit and be mindful and quiet ourselves down and really be in the moment. Number two, how to be in that moment. I know myself I would call it, lived in a frenetic lifestyle, that I was just in chaos and bombarded my messages. I couldn't sleep at night. Things were coming up in my head, couldn't sleep. During the day, I didn't take pause to just recenter, to quiet myself down, to say, I'm here, I'm in the moment. And one of the little strategies I learned in one of the courses in the past year was when those thoughts are coming up, and I call it, they call it monkey mind or mind chatter, happening, just close my eyes and say, I am here now. I am present now. I am in the present. Just say a little mantra and just breathe a few breaths, and I'll tell you, it just quiets the mind down and helps the person recenter. Okay, next slide, please. The other aspect I just want to mention about the caring moment, this is just a little more information, some of it's the same, can be a transformative turning point in healing for both, again, who experience it. So it's not just the patient or the student or the colleague that experiences that, but the person who is engaging in that transpersonal relationship has a healing moment as well. And the nurse educator seeks to see. So when we set our intention to be authentically present in that caring relationship with that person, we're seeking to see who it is, as I mentioned earlier, that spirit-filled person is behind the personality, the physical appearance, or presenting behavior. And I know for myself, because I've done some research on incivility, that's the area that I've been challenged with, is when somebody is yelling at me and toxic and screaming and ranting. That for me is a challenge, to see who that person is behind, because what I'm seeing is the behavior, what I'm feeling is the behavior, what I'm being bombarded is by, this outburst in behavior. And again, I've truly had to work very hard on this aspect to say there's a person behind that. And it's because they're not in a Dr. Watson talks about bioacidic and biogenic. Biogenic is healing, loving, caring environment. Bioacidic is toxic. And so a person who comes across with those behaviors is not living and not being in a biogenic relationship or in an environment. So trying to remember that really helps. I don't often get student emails that are toxic, but I have. And one of my strategies is I never react, I respond. So I always wait. I read the email a few times. I wait. I, again, try not to make up a story about it. I read the text, and then I craft a professional response in a caring manner. And often they'll email back and it's diffused. And it's okay. Am I going to try to change that person? No. I'm going to hope that they're going to change by my modeling behavior and how I care for them. But I can't care them. And that little phrase on the bottom is one of the, I call it the cornerstones of Dr. Jean Watson, that maybe this one moment with this one person is why we're here on earth. at this time. And I know as a nurse, I've had many caring moments, and as well as an educator. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a brief video. And you can either watch it, or you use your eyes and watch the video, or you can close your eyes and just listen. It's pretty impactful.
Jamie, there's no sound.
You may just need to unmute, Jamie, if you're the one.
Yes, because it's Jamie's muted, that's why.
And close off our very source of love. And the human connectedness that gives us the life-generating force for this work. Why are we in this field? When it often seems that we are just there to fix the body, to give physical diagnosis and treatment. Healing is much more than that. Much more of what it's about comes down to us through the ages, from our ancestors and the wisdom traditions that call us into this work. And that's about honoring our very presence, our connectedness with another person in a given moment. And it is that caring moment that actually can be a critical turning point in my life, in your life, and in another person's life, as we touch another person's humanity. What if we revisited the very foundation of our work and began to honor the deep, rich beauty of our humanity? It must again flourish. Because this is what healing is about. And what if we realize that this is sacred work? And it's sacred because we're working with the life force of another person as well as ourselves on this shared journey. What if we began to pause and to realize that maybe this one moment with this one person is the very reason we are here on Earth at this time. Any health practitioner today is struggling to return to the very human depths of our work. And we know that when we are connecting with another person in this deep way, even if it's for a brief moment in time, that we have much more purpose in our life and in our work. And we know that when that's missing, there's an empty void, and we're dispirited. And we also know the same thing happens with patients. When we hold them in their wholeness, we're holding their healing for them. And we are helping to sustain them when they are most vulnerable. And as we sustain another person, we're also sustaining ourselves. This work is a spiritual practice. When we touch another person physically, we're touching more than just their body. We're touching their mind. We're touching their heart. We're touching their very soul. And when we look into the face of another person, we look into the infinity and the mystery of the human soul. And when we look into the mystery and the infinity of the human soul, it mirrors the infinity and the mystery back into our soul. And that's what connects us with this infinite field of universal love that we draw upon in our caring and healing practices. So I offer this as a blessing for you and your work in the world and in your heart as you open to the love that you have to give and to the purpose of your calling into this noble and ancient profession.
Now what I'd like us to do is we're going to make small groups. Jamie's assigned people to small groups. And when you get into your small group, individually share a caring moment that you have had. And because we're mostly in an education kind of setting, and it could be clinical education as well or past, a caring moment you've had with a student, with a faculty member, or a staff member. And after everyone has shared, if you could just kind of, as a group, kind of reflect upon how were you able to develop this mutually trusting relationship, and whether it was online or in person. And then if time permits, I was thinking, Jamie, can we have this at 7 minutes or 6 minutes? Yeah, that would be great. We're going to do it quickly because we do have other information that I want to share as well. So Jamie will be putting you into your groups, and then you'll return back to the bigger group. Are you all set with that, Jamie?
I'm getting there.
Okay. While Jamie's doing that, I noticed there's some questions in the text chat box, and that's great. Some of those might have time today, but if not, we're going to be printing out the transcript. And a lot of the questions that I saw are some of them really related to actual strategies, and that is the plan for the second session. So if we don't get to that today, we will have that. It will be text, and I'll be able to respond to that in the next session.
Okay, I'll be opening the rooms now.
You just click into your room, you'll just enter the room, and then at the end, as I said, you'll be brought back. You don't have to do anything. You can leave, or if you not leave, you'll be brought back to the bigger room.
Thought I was in a room. I guess I'm not.
I wonder because you're hosting, maybe it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
probably. That's okay. Okay. I have my timer on so I can send my reminder. So everything's going well? Good.
Did you want to share a caring moment? Do you want to share with me?
Sure, sure. So when I worked in home health care, I live in a rural area, and so it's an agricultural area. And I had just moved here, so it was a new job, and I met this family. Well, patient was in her late 90s, and she lived with her son, who had never gotten married, and they lived in this beautiful old farmhouse. And he's an artist and a collector of everything. It was like a museum in that house, and I just connected with the two of them. And I was working part-time at the time. So I would come over on my own time every Wednesday to give her a tub bath because she could never go into the tub unless, her son wasn't going to help her. And so we just developed such a loving relationship. I mean, she would still wear a corset with all these hooks. And it was just, I would sit on the toilet and we would talk, and it was just such a lovely time. And I just would leave there and have lunch. Lunch would be after, and it was very interesting lunches. It was lovely. So I've always remembered them. And actually I have a newspaper clipping of her 100th birthday celebration that we went to. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. See, and that changed you. It changed you forever, your whole
Yes.
perception. And yeah.
I've always actually remembered Watson. I did a paper in my graduate program, and I have always remembered that I have this life history with my patients, like, because we have a shared experience. And I remember I've always gotten close to my patients, and it has changed me. It has.
I remember I watched that video, I think the first time I saw it, and I had been working in the ER, and I had a patient, and he owned a no-kill dog shelter, and he lived alone, and he came in with a dog bite, couple of a day dog bite, and his arm was swollen, right, and it looked really nasty. So we were it was one of those days in the ER we're swamped, and so the provider went in, and he comes out and he says, okay, we're going to discharge him. on Keflex. And I said, oh, I said, that dog bite looks bad. I said, I think, he could get septic. He just doesn't, oh, well, his vital signs are good, blah, blah, blah. I had that intuitive feeling, this feeling of doom, like things were not good. And he was worried, the patient was so worried about his dogs, right? Or what's going to happen to the dog? Because the dog bite that severe is not good. So anyway, I kind of dawdled, I got busy with other things and stuff, and I didn't do it purposefully. I didn't think, but I think I might have. And so anyway, I go back in to check him. He's got shaking chills, temp 103, his blood pressure is going down. He went septic. And I thought, thank you, God, because if he had gone home and collapsed at his home without anyone there, he may not have made it. And I saw him a week later. I was going into work and he was being discharged. And he said, I remember you. You were the nurse, from last week. And I just felt so happy. He was leaving. He had gone to ICU. He left us and went to ICU. He was critical from this dog bite. Dog bites, people die. People don't realize how many people die every year from dog bites. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I heard that Jane Watson's, maybe that was one of the reasons I was here on earth, for me to make that connection. Because if it had been another nurse, I was thinking a novice nurse without that intuitive power may have just discharged. Here's your Keflex. Go ahead, go home, and he may have collapsed on the way home or when he got home.
Wow.
It happened so fast. That whole sepsis can, happen fast, but
Yeah.
it's a memory I always, and I feel good about from my clinical practice. Is that the timer?
I'm going to give them 1 more minute.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised the time is going by so fast. I practiced yesterday, but
Yeah.
yeah.
1 second. Okay. Yeah. You practice, but then you do it enough times, right? And then you kind of can add in those little side thoughts.
Yes.
Right. You did
Yeah.
great. You're doing great.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. Yes. It's wonderful.
It feels good. It feels good to be living it now. I remember when I first saw Dr. Watson several years ago, she came to me and I thought, oh, I want to be, she talks about being this healing presence. And I thought, I want to be this. How do you be it? She is it, right? And taking the coaching course, that's what you learn. Yeah, that's such a powerful experience.
When I did my self-care tool, I guess we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we're going to get into that now. That's why I wanted to kind of move along from this.
And I'm going to save the chat. You're going to probably want to see all of that.
Yes, because there are questions and I reviewed it, but I thought I won't have time today, but they really segue nicely into the next one.
All right, I'm going to open it up now.
Okay.
Oh, actually, now when you say close, now it says they will close in 55 seconds, a minute. So now we have another minute. I didn't know that part. All right.
Yeah.
If we go over we go over another 5 minutes, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Is that okay? Well, people need to leave, certainly. Yeah. Is everybody back?
They're slowly coming back in.
Yeah.
Are we all set, Jamie? Or
there's we're almost there. Everybody should be coming in right now because everything's closed.
Oh, I think I know. Okay, great. Does anyone want to share any highlights of that experience? How that was for you or for the group? You don't have to. Jamie and I had a wonderful little session. It was a great walk down memory lane.
Well, I'll share a little bit. That I think the thing that all three of us saw as, sort of threatening, but then sort of trans experiential is that having to give up the control that we were used to. And, being able to define what the dynamics are. And then in fact that led to, you know, something more humanistic.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, that control is a tough one, I think, for all of us. You know,
Particularly nurses.
That's how we were taught. You got to remember, that's what we were taught. You know,
Yeah.
this is really thinking in a different way, you know, in another way, not a different, but another way, because we need scientific, we need empirical, we need to know, you know, what we know and practice guidelines, but we also, it's practice guidelines are important, but how do you kind of transcend that, as you just said, to bring in that that transpersonal space and that connected human to human, heart to heart centered connection.
Right. It's a little bit of a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, trust, building trust in ourselves and in others. Wonderful. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say that it was very therapeutic. Unfortunately, many of us do care about, as Cecilia and I discussed, you know, our family, our patients, you know, colleagues, etc., and really do forget to care for ourselves. So just talking about it and focusing in this area, it's almost filling our cups for energy for next semester, tomorrow, or the next hour, that type of thing. So we really discussed how we thought it was really wonderful for us as educators and personally.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. That's part of that is part of the purpose of all of this, caring for self. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to invite you to do a little poll, if you would. And this is a beautiful segue into caring for self. So we're going to get into caring for self and then talk about some strategies. Look, this is my cup of care. Oh, look, it's empty. Have you ever felt that way? And it doesn't have to be today or this moment, but ever. Have you ever felt like your cup is empty? And there's a poll, and we're all invited. All you have to do is click on yes or no. And when we don't care for ourselves with loving kindness, this can lead to fatigue, exhaustion, irritability, sleep problems, unhappiness, and even burnout in our jobs. So in our roles, we often give more than we receive. And so is everybody able to see this poll, Jamie? Can
Yes.
everybody see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at, including me, it's 100%. So all of us have felt that way. But if we're giving more than we receive and we're not filling our own cup, then we're not really able to provide care for another person. Not that level of transpersonal caring. We might say we care in kind of the rhetoric, but the actual heart-to-heart moment presencing isn't there. Have you ever felt that there just aren't enough hours in a day to complete all of your tasks? Have you found it difficult to unplug from technology, especially at night, instead of like giving yourself a time frame at 5 p.m. I'm done my work day, etc. Because of technology, because of the online and this digital world we live in, we want to stay connected and plugged in all the time. However, there are other options, and we'll talk about those when we get to the micro practices in just a second. And that brings us to the next slide, and that's Caritas process number 1. And I know Dr. Watson doesn't have these in a linear fashion. However, I really truly believe that Caritas process number 1 is the most important, and that's really having compassion, loving equanimity towards ourself in terms of being able to care for another person. We have to care for ourselves with that kind of caring consciousness. And again, and without judgment. I know I work, we're doing practicing coaching now, so I'm working with some people on self-care and a lot of judgment And I think a lot of us are kind of in that framework. Like yesterday was a good example. Okay, I live in Maine, and it was probably with a wind chill factor 10 degrees. So one of my coaches said, I don't know if I should walk today, I'll be failing my walking program. And I said, no, you have to make a decision, or is there something else you might think about? Let's talk about solutions here. So really not judgment, but yeah, caring for self is, it's in a holistic way, is with kindness and forgiveness. And it's not an all or none. So there's a lot of things that we can think about. It's also important to think about how our well-being relates to caring for others. And again, if we're empty, we're not able to really give that. We want to allow, again, feelings to be expressed. The nurse educator helps the person accept their feelings so that they're able to release in a constructive way.
Lynn, can I make a comment about that?
Yes.
So for the nursing students that are graduating and taking hospital positions, one thing that I always talk about with my clinical group is setting limits with employers that constantly beg for nurses to come and work extra shifts. So where I work, I could work every single day, right? So it took me a long time to be comfortable to say no, right? Especially when you have managers that are begging and making you feel guilty for not working. So
that's a wonderful point. And I remember somebody shared this with me, and I shared it with my students too when I was doing the clinical. And the statement is, no is a complete sentence. So when somebody calls, and so I worked in per diem in the ER for years, and when they would call me, and I'd just say no. And I didn't give an excuse. I didn't say I can't. I used to say, oh, I can't because I have another job, or I have this or that, or I've worked too many hours. I didn't make excuses. I just said no. And so it was quite a silence on the other end. But the truth is, we don't need to explain. We don't need to feel guilty. If our cup is empty and I am exhausted, I cannot be there. But your point, and I think we could talk about this more in the next session, because my daughter graduated 2 years ago from nursing school, and as a new grad was being asked to work an unsafe situation. She left an employer because unsafe situation, and being asked to do way more than a new graduate novice nurse should be doing. So I think you have I think we as educators need to do better in teaching caring for self with our students, and setting boundaries without guilt, without any kind of feelings attached. Okay, next slide, please, Jamie. Okay, this slide is asking you another poll. Do you believe that caring for self is the same as self-care? Okay, so it's 47 yes, and no is 53. So somebody who said no, would you like to share why you think that it's no versus just word superimposed?
I kind of think of caring for self is more like how you internally look inward at yourself, whereas self-care is more the kind things you do for yourself, like, take a bath or take a walk or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Great, Yolanda, that was beautiful. Yeah, caring for self is it connotes a deeper sense of loving care towards self. And that self-care, and I was thinking about, it's really become a buzzword in the last 5 to 8 years with ANA, it's in journals, it's everywhere. It becomes more what you kind of mentioned, a checklist mentality. Okay, I'm going to make my list for the day, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. That's very different than getting up in the morning and setting that intention for the day, that deeper processing and caring for self. And one has to honor and appreciate self in order to place ourselves at the top. And with self-care, if it's on a list, what goes, right? If your children need something, your significant other, spouse, partner, whatever, you're going to go to the bottom. So caring for self, you're always at the top. And so it's really important to kind of think about that. Okay, and next, yes, self-assessment tool. You were invited in that email to complete the tool. And I think that for me, that was an important, I think I took it 8 years ago was my very first time. And the person who gave me the tool said, this is something to do now, but keep your original tool. And then it's recommended to do this over and over again. So every 6 months to a year. So it was kind of interesting because at the time I did it, I scored very poorly on my self-care many years ago. And I did it just this week and I was like, oh, yay. I've made a lot of progress. I love the tool and it's just for your use, right? So this isn't something you have to share with anybody, but it's really, it's very revealing. I think it's really revealing where we put ourselves. I did put, this is my go-to book, the Dossie and Keegan Handbook of Holistic Nursing. There's a new edition. So if you are considering getting it, I'd wait. It's either 2021 or 22 is coming out with a new edition, which I'm excited about. Okay, next. So after we do the self-assessment and we decide we really want to think about change in our lives and caring for ourselves, we need to think about how do we do that? And so what's been recommended, and I found this beautiful little article on rethinking approach to caring for self. And really thinking about, I'm busy, I have a lot going on, how can I fit? This is a huge list, right? Am I going to do all of this in one day? Perhaps not. These are just some examples, actually. And so microtizing is really looking at engaging in small nurturing habits in our daily lives that have a big impact on our well-being versus sort of that scheduling a massage once a week, or I'm going to go to a yoga. I'm not going now because of COVID-19, but I'm going to go to a yoga studio and actually do a 1.5 hour practice once a week. I can do yoga, which I did this morning, a 10 or 15 minute practice here in my own home. So microtizing things, sleep, if you're having trouble sleeping, there are all kinds of strategies that you can use to promote sleep. It may be using lavender oil. It may be spooning on your feet to get the acupressure points relaxed. Maybe just mindful breathing, lots of different things. I do most of these. I'm a therapeutic touch practitioner. I'm a Reiki level 1. I do it to myself now that I'm not going out too much in the world. Do it with my dog, reflective journaling, gratitude sprinkles. As I said, gratitude is so important to offer gratitude. And sprinkling means I'm going to text somebody, and I try to do this at least once or twice a week, and text somebody with gratitude for something. And that really honors another person. Love the nature walking. Dr. Watson's developed some touchstones, and they're in her book, her 2008 book on page 51, but she also has these nice little cards that I have that you can get on her website, and they invite us to create our own kind of sprinkling throughout the day. And she has caring in the beginning, setting an intention, caring in the middle for ourselves, and in the end of the day. And I found that before I started the coaching program, I was great in the morning. That's my time. I'm awake, I'm alert, 5:30. I'm one of those morning people that a lot of people hate, but have a lot of energy, and I do a lot of these things. But it was sort of during the day. I didn't stop. I didn't stop to reflect. I would just go from one task or activity to the next. Now I wait in the middle of the day. It might be at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I take time to kind of pause, recenter, and perhaps set another intention for the day. Lots of different strategies. But what the caring for self really requires is that we make that time every day to incorporate something in our lives. It could be dancing around your living room, music, art, writing poetry, haikus, whatever. On the bottom, there's this link, and it's to Community Online Academy, and it's through the SUNY Delhi. What I got an email on it, and that's how I got involved. And if you click on it, it'll just take you to the homepage, I think, Jamie. Does that not work? I'm not sure it'll work.
I am
But
there. You don't see it.
no, I don't see it. It may not have worked.
You have to probably share your screen again.
Oh, maybe.
I
tried to embed it in the thing, but
anytime you change to something else, you have to stop and reshare.
Well, I was able to show that video, which was in the tab. So interesting.
Yeah, that's okay. This Community Online Academy, and you can just go to that if you want to jot that down. But and I think it's pretty much free. I don't think there's a cost to it. I have never paid. I got it through the SUNY Delhi. I got an email and I said, well, what is this? It's on Thursdays every week. And I just got an email. The 20th is the last for this session. And then it comes back in January. But there are classes from, I think, 5 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night on Thursdays. They're all through Zoom. I take every week Pilates and Yoga Nidra. I do that every Thursday just because I really love those. They have noontime lectures, Harvard professors. It's been wonderful. It's really great self-care. So I would encourage people, and you can invite 10 friends. So I've sent it off to different people. There's Tai Chi, there's ballet, dance, just a lot of great things. So it's like one of those things, like when I think about self-care, you can't get out too much these days, but there's a lot of things you can do at home and to help support your own healing. Okay, next slide. Looking at the time, we're going over a little bit. So if you do need to leave, I understand, but just getting ready to wrap up. If you could put one barrier in the chat box, that would be helpful. What are possible barriers for self-care? What are some things that prevent me? What are things that happen in my daily life, my weekly life, my usual life that prevents me from being able to complete my own caring for self? Yeah, it's looking like time. Time is a big issue, lack of time. These are common. These are, and I'll tell you what I've read in the literature. Decreased energy equals decreased motivation. So that's one. Guilt, taking time away from partner, family, children. Change is hard, so it's hard to change to incorporate these. Unrealistic expectations of self, so punishing yourself. So if you didn't get it in every day, not feeling good. So set really high expectations, which is never recommended, but try to set them really small. Lack of awareness of your own personal needs. So doing that self-assessment tool is really great because that helps to identify what would be helpful for me. And the last thing is really putting others' needs first. So if you're not embracing Caritas process number 1, and that's caring consciousness for self, then we're not able to really take the time to do this. Self-care needs to be done daily and preferably throughout the day to help manage stress, prevent illness, and enhance feelings of well-being. And then the next handout is on the next slide, and that's in that you were sent. And that's a nice tool to use as a formal, I have I guess I forgot this slide isn't here, but that's okay. No, that's okay. Are you willing to incorporate at least one micro practice into your daily life? If you would submit to that poll. Remember, there's a lot of things, and this is just asking, are you willing to incorporate at least one? You don't have to, if you don't feel you can, or the time. This little rock I found on one of my hikes. It was funny. I started hiking and with a friend, and on that day we saw 7 hearts. There was a cloud of hearts. There was rocks of hearts. There was a heart on a tree trunk. It was amazing. On one hike, all these hearts. So yes, 100%. Everybody's willing to. Great, thank you. That the next handout is that self-care covenant. And that is really another useful tool. And what I really like about the tool, it's really a contract with yourself. So it's kind of making a more formal commitment. And also the 2 columns are really helpful because there's what am I currently doing for caring for self? And then what am I going to intend to incorporate in my caring and add? Okay. And we're going to, during break, I'm hopeful that you will really take this time to care for yourself. You know, you have the handouts and the materials there. I want to thank you all for your engagement. I want to mention on this slide, and we'll send these out so you'll have these after this presentation, that they're at the Caring Watson Center, and I did put some have fees and some are free because I want to make sure people know not everything's free, but there are multiple free digital, and there's one coming up and it's in March, and it's about digital education. So that might be one that you might want to take after we've completed this. Next session will really focus more on that, as I said, the academic piece and learning centered. We'll incorporate the multiple ways of knowing and actual strategies to enhance, and be sure to answer all of those questions that came up in the chat. We will be copying those. And I just wanted to read from Krishnamurti in closing, just a little brief. He was a philosopher and spiritual teacher. He says, our responsibility to transform the world, we must begin with ourselves. And what is important in beginning with ourselves is the intention. The intention must be to understand ourselves and not to leave it to others to transform themselves or to bring about a modified change through revolution, either of the left or the right. It is important to understand that this is our responsibility, yours and mine, because however small may be the world we live in, if we transform ourselves, bring about a radically different point of view in our daily existence, then perhaps we shall affect the world at large, the extended relationship with others. So we have that opportunity to change the world by ourselves, by caring with loving kindness to ourselves. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful break, and I will hopefully see you back here in January.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome. Good to see all of you.
One minute, just before I